This video is my reaction to the Baltimore Ravens' 41-17 win over the Browns in Week 2, evening their record at 1-1, headed into next week's Monday Night Football collision with the Detroit Lions. The defense for Zach Orr came through today, in my opinion, and was needed in the first half because our offense was struggling. Lamar gutted one out, in my opinion. It looked like he was dealing with something physically. Nothing was listed on the injury report, but coming into the game, watching the lack of option run plays called, and number two, how many high throws he had early in the game. I thought Ross Tucker made sure to go out of his way to mention that multiple times, if you pick up on what I'm saying. But he still was able to throw 4 touchdowns in the game. Kind of a ho-hum 4-touchdown performance, including 2 to Devontae Walker, one of which was on 4th down. I thought it was a great play call by Monken on that 4th down. The decision to go for it, personally, I probably wouldn't have, but I'm glad that we did, and I applaud the Ravens for doing so because they had confidence in their defense to that point. Finished up by stomping a Browns team that played really well defensively, especially in the first half. I think they maybe got worn down because of their inability to get things going with their offense. And Kevin Stefanski and that team, that franchise, I think they're at a cross. The Browns are probably always at a crossroads, but this particular team, I thought it looked like they're really limited offensively from a personnel standpoint, and what Stefanski is willing or able to call when he's got a really immobile quarterback in the game like Flacco. I did not think Flacco played very well at all, in my opinion, but you're welcome to have your own and have a different one than I do. Things changed suddenly in the second half for the offense. We at one point outscored Cleveland 24-0 before we put backups in the fourth quarter when they took Flacco out. And Stefanski decides to run the football down 31 in the fourth quarter. I have no idea why it wasn't an option for Cleveland earlier in the game to replace Flacco. I thought he was playing that poorly, even in the first half. We were fortunate, in my opinion, to play against a guy with just no mobility at all, even though he did scramble for a first down on that second quarter drive, I think, where they get a field goal. He finished 25 of 45 passing for 199. I thought the Browns were late dealing with that substitution. It really wouldn't have mattered because Zach Orr's side, led by Roquan Smith, obviously played their butts off today. All the talk heading into the Browns game, and they held, I think, Cleveland to 4.5 yards per play. And it wouldn't have even been that high if it weren't for the final drive, 65 yards of which is on that final drive, or that touchdown drive for Cleveland. I think it gets their rushing output to 114. I'd like to see us get off the field more maybe than dealing with 72 plays, to be honest with you, or basically not be out there so much on a day when the Browns offense was clearly ineffective. From a Browns standpoint, man, they've got the Packers, Lions, and Vikings the next 3 weeks. And I believe the Steelers after that, but I could be wrong on the 4th game. They're staring a long season in the face, and I think that's why Myles Garrett was pretty frustrated with his comments after the game, because he sees their quarterback and offense situation in practice, and he knows what their final record is going to look like. In the second half, Lamar and the Ravens went up top often. The big completion to Hopkins for 49 yards could have been a touchdown. The one to Walker on the corner route, extremely poor coverage adjustment by Cleveland's secondary. I think they're totally outflanked and outcoached there, I should say. Lamar finished, I think, 19 of 29, 225, 4 touchdowns on a day where he's dealing with something physically against a very physical, fast, and aggressive Browns defense that was suffocating for parts of the first half. That second quarter, Cleveland won the field position battle completely shut down our running game for the whole day, which is crazy, but we got the deeper pass game going. I think we finished with 47 yards rushing on the ground on 21 carries. That does include, the 3 kneel downs to finish the game. I don't know about you. 1-1 feels good right now after the way things looked at halftime. Basically, 1 turnover, 1 random play, and Cleveland could be right back in the game or even tied. They're an incomplete team over there, and I know that we don't want to celebrate wins over teams like that. They've got a fantastic defense with one of the best players in the league in Myles Garrett. They have a dedicated system that they think works against us, and at times it did today in the second quarter. Lamar, Hopkins, Walker, and Monken made sure that didn't fit for 4 quarters. I do want to talk about the defense specifically on the other side. Roquan was a monster. Even before the fumble return for a touchdown that made it 34-10 with 8 minutes left. Game, was over at that point. Lamar, although Lamar stayed in, I was advocating in our Ravens Discord, like, get Lamar and Henry off the field. I don't need them in a game like this where we're up 24. Roquan had 15 tackles, 3 TFLs. He had the fumble return for a touchdown. He was there at the point of attack on everything. Run plays, he was there. He was quick to come downhill and meet the running back, even if it was a 2 or 3 or 4 yard gain. And then in addition, I thought Roquan was great at coming downhill on zone pass drops. Taking his zone pass drop, ball thrown underneath, collision, come downhill to collision the running back just at or after the catch. Flacco was getting rid of the ball quick. I thought the Ravens defense played with significant force. We must have been giving Flacco some slightly different looks post-snap than he got pre-snap because there just weren't things there. We got stops on our opening 6 possessions, and then, Cleveland did get the field goal to get within 10-3 at the half. Tavius has the strip sack that Roquan scooped up. Nnamdi Madubuike, I think, had another sack in the first half. On defense, and I want to show this, it's probably difficult for you guys to see a little bit. This is just what myself and EA Edgar Allen are tracking in terms of the defense. Don't have the coverage all the way over to the right is obviously not correct at this point that I record this. And oh, by the way, I missed the first possession and getting my computer set up. Orr's defense in control, like I said, while our offense was struggling. So there is some complement there that Orr's defense brought. Basically, imagine that our defense played as poor as we did last week in the fourth quarter against the Bills while we were struggling against Cleveland's defense. Then, we'd be 0-2 at this point. But they played with an angry tone. I thought Wiggins played well on the outside. He did have the pick. Got tackled by an offensive lineman there, so that's interesting. But Roquan, first and foremost, along with Kyle Hamilton, I thought Hamilton was really sharp, showed up at just the right time on pass plays. I think on Madubuike's sack that Hamilton jumps Njoku down into the boundary. Basically, Flacco is looking there to get the ball to Njoku, and so Hamilton kind of drops down to take over that route and shut it off. Flacco has to pump fake or hold on, and then Madubuike gets the sack. I think Hamilton's final stats are, it's only 5 tackles, a TFL, really close to a forced fumble on that ball that was initially ruled incomplete to Fanning, the rookie tight end for Cleveland. And then I think they determined that it was a completed pass. And then, oh, by the way, on the 4th and 2, that's the play that Marlon drops the interception and Cedric Tillman catches it for an 18-yard touchdown. We also gave up 3 big plays up the left hash. So I'm looking forward to seeing the film and what that was, why we gave up 2 of them to the tight ends. But the reality is, if you want to look at this game with Marlon catching that football, which he very well could, the 4th down pass from Flacco, I thought it was a poor throw from Flacco, but I guess he's got to get rid of the ball. Cedric Tillman gets in for an 18-yard score, make it 20-10 late third quarter. If we catch that pick, then this one is a complete blowout with a score that actually indicates the flow of the gameplay in the second half. I think Cleveland's generally done a good job against Monken's run game since he got here. Now, I'm not talking about the rematch last year in Baltimore. That was a 200-yard performance for us. What I'm talking about, the 2 games in 2023 and the first game last year that we played them. We went to go to Cleveland and lose to Jameis Winston. I think it's 131, 124, and maybe 119 on the ground in those 3 games. We'd been able to get above 100 in each of those 3 games. Well, 4 in a row, actually, the rematch last year. But my point is there was no option component today. And that's the suggestion, and the data, I should say, that illustrates to me Lamar was dealing with something because we just didn't get those play calls. I think we got 1 actual dual read with Lamar and Andrews where Lamar, it's a 2nd and goal from the 4, and we try to score with that play, him following Andrews to the right side. 2 plays later, we do get the touchdown to Devontae Walker. Usually that, to me, indicates that the coaching staff knows Lamar is dealing with something, and so they're not going to call those option plays. In this case, the play calling can give us an indication of what they know that we don't. In any case, for the offense, for the run game, I should say, to be shut down the way that it was, and us to still put up 40 points on Cleveland, that just confirms, what everybody knows about the Ravens offense, which is that it's incredibly explosive. If we get complementary football like this, we're not going to face Joe Flacco and Stefanski calling plays, which I think they're headed for like a 2-15, 3-14 type season, especially once they replace Flacco with Gabriel. The moment he gets in there to be a starting quarterback, I think that team is in trouble, and they really already are. Marlon's dropped interception is frustrating from a personal standpoint for him because he was an All-Pro last season, and he was spectacular in 2024. He needs plays like that. He needs to make plays like that to have a strong bid for another All-Pro bid that would really just add more depth to his career that's already been great in Baltimore. I don't know about you guys, but like I said, I was kind of glad to see Gabriel get in there, down 31, and lead a touchdown drive. I'm kind of hoping Cleveland decides to make him the starter because, like I said, I just don't think they're going to win many football games at all. In addition to that, I think I'm going to do this every week when there's players on the other teams that kind of run their mouth for no reason. I don't get it. You're in your locker room either before or after practice during the week, and you've got to say things about a team like the Ravens or whoever. And in this case, they had a couple of guys do that. Delpit, the safety, who can never keep his mouth shut, and then Jerry Jeudy. I did a video last week on Christian Benford because he was somewhat disrespectful or had some disdain talking about Hopkins' touchdown catch against him. And so I did a video on that because I wanted to point it out. This week's winner or loser, if you will, I guess, is Jerry Jeudy. He had 4 catches for 51 yards on 8 targets. Now, he did have a 26-yard reception. I thought it was on their third quarter touchdown drive, but it was not. That was actually Fanning, the rookie. So I couldn't find that one. I wasn't exactly sure. I guess it occurred during the first half. He said it was no challenge. Jeudy, he said it was no challenge regarding our secondary, where you're at 50% catches to targets with just 51 yards. I do understand it, though. Everyone watched our defense blow it in the fourth quarter at Buffalo last week. It wasn't the same group out there today. Had stops to begin the first 26 minutes of gameplay before Cleveland got that short field just beyond midfield on our side of the 50. And they turned it into a field goal in the second quarter to make it 10-3. I'm going to talk about some of Lamar's touchdown passes here, or actually I guess all of them. After Hummel's blocked punt, the touchdown to Wallace is beautiful, man. It's the same play 2 times in a row. Excuse me, it's the same look 2 plays in a row. So Wallace goes in motion, the tight end steps out to the D end or edge defender, and then Wallace as the third receiver, but really he's the Z. He inserts into the C gap. And on the first play, he blocks, and it's Henry. I think it's Henry for 9 yards or 8 yards. The next play after that is the same exact personnel group. Well, it's 11. It might be a different receiver out there, but he comes down in the same motion, inserts into C gaps and then goes on like a corner route and beats number 29 for a touchdown. That made it 10-0. And at that point, with our defense playing the way they were, I thought we had a great opportunity, to really, I don't want to say necessarily shut this team out, but a 30-3 type game, something like that, 31-3. I thought that was within reach if the offense was able to get going, and sure enough, they did in the second half. It was Hopkins' bomb that really plugged us in. We thought for a moment, right, that it made it 17-3 at that point. It's a 2nd and 7. Lamar throws it up left side. It seems to be the type of thing where Lamar at times is looking for Hopkins on those deep routes. I'd like to see Hopkins on some other routes as well. I don't think that at this point he's just a guy we throw the ball deep to and he's going to win. He is going to win those matchups, but to me, he's got more available to him than that. But nonetheless, he was ruled down at the 1. We settled for that field goal to make it 13-3. Actually, I thought that was to open the third quarter. I may have misspoke a moment ago. Then the 9th possession occurs pretty close thereafter. It's after Wiggins' interception, a throw that I thought was a poor throw from Flacco. Maybe it was a 4th down throw, and he had to get rid of it, but I don't think so. For some memory serves, I thought it was a 2nd down. But Wiggins doesn't score, but he gets close, and then we go for it on the 4th and goal from the 3. Excuse me. It's a 13 personnel group, so there's 3 tight ends to the right, which is a great call because we're running the running back out there in the flats, and then Lamar is reverse pivoting, so we can just take everybody down with the tight ends, unless they bring blitz pressure like a corner or a safety off the edge, which they didn't. Lamar's got a lane there, possibly to run, in my opinion, and then he fires it to Walker from the backside as the X. Think about the receiving options that we have that we showed today. We know about Zay Flowers, 70 catches for 75 yards. 7 catches, 75 yards, excuse me. Bateman is going to contribute more than he has in the last 2 weeks. Walker, 2 touchdowns. Hopkins, another touchdown and the 49-yard catch. And then Tylan Wallace, a touchdown. He's playing really well. It's a really great situation, if you ask me, to have this much depth at receiver. The touchdown to Walker, the one that I talked about, the 4th and goal from the 3, that one I think makes it 20-3 Ravens. I get it. We could have settled for a field goal there. Personally, if I was calling the plays and making the decision, I would have considered that because of how well our defense would play. But we're down there on the 3-yard line. If we don't get it and we're able to get a stop, which to that point they only had 3 points, you're still in a good situation. So credit to Harbaugh, Monken, Lamar, and Walker for being able to corral the football in the back of the end zone. Then the 10th possession, these were all back to back to back, by the way. We go in the second half, field goal, touchdown, 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 with no stops in between there at all. So does Cleveland's defense deserve credit for playing well? Yes. But our offense figured it out. Maybe it's because their offense got nothing done, so they were constantly out on the field. That's entirely possible. If you want to hold that opinion, that's fine. That's fine. I love this throw to Walker, the second touchdown. It's a 2nd and 14. I think we just had a penalty. And it's a horrible coverage check from the Browns. The nickel running across the field. He can't guard that route. He just can't. There's just no way. He's running from the other side of the field, and it's a corner route to the back corner of the end zone. If you look at where that guy lined up before the motion, which I think was by Flowers, where he lined up, you expect him to cover something in the far corner that's a designed corner route. It's not like, an unsettled situation where Lamar scrambled or anything like that. I think it's a poor coverage check by the Browns, and Monken put him in that situation twice. He recreated that dynamic 2 different times. So as good as Jim Schwartz has been at times against the Ravens and Lamar, and he certainly was in the first half today, I have to give credit to Monken for recognizing that, putting Walker on the field to do it. One of our fastest guys, obviously, getting down the field. I thought the offense really did a great job of adjusting. I know that we'll be challenged throughout the whole season, right? We got Detroit next week. They're going to play a lot of man. That's what they normally do. I don't know what their film looked like today against the Bears. I didn't get a chance to watch it. My point is, I am glad for the adjustments and the way that things worked out in the second half on a day where the run game wasn't that great. We only generated 242 yards of offense, 3 of 12 on third down conversions, and we still scored 40 points. Got the short field, obviously, a couple of times. I think Cleveland's in trouble. I really do. I think Stefanski probably needs to get one of the rookie quarterbacks in there and hope to develop some positivity so that he can survive this year. I'm talking about Stefanski. They're going to need a heroic, near-perfect effort from that defense every week. Otherwise, I think they're in trouble. Flowers was dominant against man coverage. No TDs, no touchdowns, but 7 catches, I think on 11 targets. I thought he had more than 75 yards, but the stats are right there in front of us. He's causing problems for teams when they want to play man. I'm talking about last week against the Bills and then this week against Cleveland. I thought Schwartz just basically, one of the basic things they did was roll the boundary side safety down in the box to create either a 7-man front, depending on where the nickel was, how wide he was, or an 8-man front. You're more than welcome to let me know what you saw. It looked like to me, instead of staying in a too high shell, he just walked the boundary side safety down to match up or deal with our tight ends over there, or if it was a receiver into the boundary, and it was very successful, obviously, in the first half. Lamar is one of those guys that, even on a day when he's not at his best, statistically, 4 touchdowns is fantastic. I think he now is either the leader for career quarterback rating or in a statistical tie. I'm not exactly sure. I saw something like that mentioned in our Discord. The play that he makes to Hopkins in the second half is ridiculous. It's the one, if I recall correctly, where he scrambles around and then throws to Hopkins down the field, the left side, nearly ends up being a touchdown. That's just one of those things where you've got 2 premier talents, Lamar and Hopkins. Well, we have more than 2, but in this particular play, teams are going to have real trouble matching up with Flowers and man. And when Likely comes back, it'll be even more so. There's a tremendous amount of position player talent on this team. It's almost obscene how much position player talent we have. It'll be a big test next week against Detroit, don't get me wrong. They play a lot of man. They've been very good against the run the last 2 years. And they just wrecked Chicago, I think 52-20 or 52-23. So perhaps we're in for an offensive shootout next week. I'm going to read you off some of my first half notes, which is of a different flavor than what I've kind of gone over for most of this video here. At the same time, we were and were not playing complementary football. On a day when our defense was dominating Cleveland, our offense got nothing done in the first half. But it was a saving grace for us because it allowed us to get up 10-0 and then 10-3. My notes indicate Lamar's throwing everything high. Looks like he's nursing some type of injury. The Browns are contesting everything anyway, and whether it's the run game or the pass game, they're all over us. When we're up 10-3 at the half, we've only generated 14 yards on 9 carries. Henry was 5 rushes for 5 yards. The second quarter was a total shutdown of our offense. We went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Now, sandwiched in there was the 15-yard touchdown pass to Tylan Wallace, which I'll definitely take a look at from a film study standpoint for a video, Monday or Tuesday. Really nice play action concept. Lamar throws it quick. Lamar knew what was coming. He basically knew what they were going to get, gave Wallace a chance to go get the ball. Really unique. Remember the last 2 or 3 years, so many people clamoring for better receiver talent and more options for Lamar, more weapons, I guess, for Lamar. And now here we almost have too many. There's no such thing as too many weapons, but a player like Tylan Wallace, if he was starting for other teams in the NFL, and I do think that he could start for 8, 10, 12 teams in the NFL and play well. How many catches would he get? I don't know. I mean, he's got the talent to get 50, 60 catches if he got a whole lot of targets, but he's not going to get those targets on this team. He's going to be a high-efficiency guy who executes given number of weeks. I don't know if it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 weeks that he'll get these opportunities, but so far he takes advantage of them. Thought the Browns' defense was overwhelming us in that second quarter, not necessarily in terms of sacks. They did have 1 sack, and when they brought pressure on third down, they were able to get there, or they were able to at least impact Lamar. I thought that one of Lamar's passes from down back up near our 15 or maybe 18-yard line to Bateman I thought that one was high. And that's the one that I thought, okay, at this point, to me, it looks like something's not right with him, because that's not what Lamar doesn't miss those types of throws. He normally hits those. If you recall, it's the one that Ross Tucker, the announcer, gave the DB credit for making a PD. It's like, dude, if the ball's not thrown high, Bateman is catching that football. Actually, at the same time, Tucker said that the DB made a great play. He said it was a drop on Bateman. I thought it was pretty high. He elevated to go get it. That was in the midst of Cleveland, winning the field position battle. We began possessions in the second quarter, other than the 15-yard touchdown to Wallace to make it 10-0. We began our 3 possessions at our own 22, our own 11, and then our own 4. For me, the final frustration was late second quarter. Cleveland's just got a field goal, 10-3, and we get nothing. Just pure nothing. That second quarter was a wipeout. Definitely we'll take a look at what the Browns were doing there, what Schwartz was calling, versus, how things we were able to get things accomplished down the field, especially with the pass game in the second half. We had 4 first downs at the half. We didn't scramble much. I think Lamar had 1 scramble to that point. We certainly didn't run a lot of option. He was 10 of 17 passing for 77 yards, and then finished 9 of his next 12, if I did my math right there. We were averaging 3.0 yards per play, which is really less than half of our typical output in the last year or so. Ravens defense playing really well. Ton of quick throws from Flacco. I thought we were sharp, other than that one 3rd and 13 in the second quarter, where it looks like we drop out in zone, and Njoku kind of goes up the left seam over the top of Marlon in a zone structure. That allowed them to get their early field goal. They had 120 yards at the half. Flacco was 12 of 23 passing for 93 yards. One of the things I said in the Ravens Discord at halftime was, man, if I'm a Browns fan, I'm sitting, and I like Joe Flacco. We all do, right? We're going to root for him. I'm just like, what are we doing here? And I think Stefanski, if he continues to play Flacco very long, it'll become a very negative situation in Cleveland. And, I could be really wrong there, but things do not look good on the offensive side at all, in my opinion, and especially with their upcoming schedule. Browns, I thought, should have been getting one of their backups in the game in the second half, but they did get the touchdown to close to within 20-10. That one kind of surprised me. I was not surprised that Roquan came out with a destroyer mindset. He was violent today, and was finishing against the run, first of all, and aggressive against the pass. Him and Kyle Hamilton, I thought, they looked like guys who just showed up at the ball all the time. To me, it looked like Wiggins played well, and I have to say, as unimpressed as I was with Awuzie's feet and activity level last week against the Bills, particularly when he was the dime linebacker. He seemed to play well out there today at outside corner. And I might be wrong once the film comes out. You're welcome to let me know if you remember something negative that I've omitted here. To me, he looked clean out there on the edge. Did give up one to Judy that was a deeper out, maybe for like 11 or 12 yards. But I thought him and Wiggins played well. TJ Tampa had a PD on Judy late, over the middle or maybe near the left hash. Those guys on defense really brought it. Mike Green was wrapped around Flacco's feet at one point in time. Oweh had 2 clean wins, one of which resulted in a holding call, thankfully. I don't know about you, but when I saw that hold occur and didn't hear the announcer say, oh, there's a hold, immediately I was like, are they not going to call this? I'm a little bit easy to trigger at this point after seeing the pass interference last week not get called against Christian Benford on Bateman, or on Christian Benford against Bateman, I should say. And then at least 3 of the plays where the Bills' offensive line should have been called for holds last week. So when Oweh burst past the right tackle, I was like, are they not going to call this? Fortunately, they did. It was a huge play, the block kick by Hummel. Gives us a short field. Were it not for that block, it's conceivable it could have been a 3-3 tie at the half. The offensive line didn't do a great job at all in run blocking, but then there was times where I thought the pass pro stood up, especially against Cleveland's 4-man rushes. Nonetheless, when we lost the field position battle in the second quarter for so many drives in a row, you knew that eventually it would catch up with us, and sure enough it did, them getting the late field goal. What was your level of concern at halftime in terms of were we actually going to get a win? I would say mine was a 4 out of 10, maybe a 3, because I saw how well our defense was playing and just didn't think that Flacco, with his lack of mobility and how quickly he was throwing the ball, was going to be able to get back to a second or a third read on the other side of the field. It seemed to me as if Flacco had some plays where he was getting the ball out quick, either to a running back or trying to get it to a tight end. And if he couldn't, then he recognized he was in trouble. Brings me really no joy to criticize Joe Flacco, but I thought he really was a detriment to the Browns offense for much of the day today, even though he's still got a cannon for an arm. Still really made some nice throws. I think Judy down the left side, the 26-yarder, he goes up and stabs it. It's a brilliant throw, don't get me wrong. In any case, this is my reaction video for the Ravens' 41-17 win over the Browns. You're welcome to let me know what you think I omitted or maybe left out from this discussion. It feels nice to get to 1-1. I know we've got a battle on our hands next week with the Lions. Haven't been able to watch that game, so I intend to do that late Sunday night. In any case, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Ravens fans will enjoy listening to my thoughts and maybe looking at some of the stats or the defense data that I showed up a couple of times, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.